Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bourbon Note. We're live, I'm Ben, let's get into it. All right, welcome back everybody. Got a few people in the chat, Piper John, Peter White, Steve Joes, what's happening? Been a minute since I've been live, so shaking the rust off here. This has been a very busy month. I've had a kind of an overtime project at work that is now wrapped up, so that kind of ate into my ability to do some live streams and then just scheduling stuff. So it's been a busy one, so happy to be back here. I think the only time I live streamed in like the last month was with the Whiskey 6, and that was a fun one. So we had Trev from the Bourbon Wrench on. That was awesome. Anyway, even though I didn't do live streams, I did still do the Patreon subscriber drawing. We will do another Patreon subscriber drawing tonight. So we'll throw some killer samples out there. So tonight, I just kind of figured I wanted to do an A-batch flight from Elijah Craig. A lot of people are not really happy with the newest, the A124. To be honest, I liked it. I don't really see why everybody hates it so much. And I know the B524 has not gotten the greatest accolades either. I didn't like that one quite as much, but I don't know. I tend to like all the Elijah Craig stuff, so I don't know. I guess tonight what I'm looking for is to see how much of a difference there is. The other thing I wanted to get is you guys' opinion on something, and I've been thinking about even making like a video kind of tackling this subject or tackling a few different subjects in one video. A lot of people will say when it comes to like Elijah Craig barrel proof, they're like, oh, well, I like the C batches best, or I like the A batches, or the B batch is never any good, the C batch is always the best. And I've always kind of wondered, like, is there any actual, like, is there a thing behind that? And I'm asking, like, I don't know. Is there any reason why C batches would consistently be better than the other ones? Because it seems to me that it's just kind of happenstance. Whatever batch ends up, whatever barrels end up being that batch. So I'm wondering, is there something about the particular batch, A, B, or C, like, are they different from each other in some regard as to why one would always be consistently better than the other ones? So let me know your opinions on that in the chat. Got a few more people filing in. Steve Joes, I still thought B24 was fine. You know what? I did too. I haven't actually met an Elijah Craig barrel proof I didn't like. Strangely enough, the only one that I've been kind of not super into was the C923, and that was just absolutely everybody on the internet's favorite bottle when that first came out. I think I actually have a couple of clips here from that. From some other whiskey tube channels. Yeah, so that one definitely got some love. Here's some more. So that seemed to be everybody else's reaction to C923. I didn't, and Greg didn't really either think, I mean, we liked it, because I tend to like all of these. But anyway, the C923, despite the fact that I'm the only person on the planet that didn't think that was the greatest batch, everybody else seems to, and I know that was a difficult one to get a hold of, so I'm going to include a sample of the C923 in tonight's whiskey drawing for the Patreon only, or if you want to throw in a super chat. So I think what else I'll do in that, I did do a sample of the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass in the last Patreon only drawing, but I think I'll include one of these in tonight's drawing as well. So C923, the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye, review of that coming out tomorrow. If you're on Patreon, you've already seen it. And then we'll find something else. We'll pick something else cool off of the shelf. So I'm having a control bourbon right now. C923 Heretic. Piper John saying it's the neck pour. Well, so for those of you that are on the Patreon, I actually this last weekend did a slightly drunk re-review of C923. That's the kind of professionalism you can expect on the Patreon. Bourbon Jerk, what's happening, Tom? Cheers, Ben. That's a lot of ECBP. Yeah, I'm doing small pours of these. Anyway, so I revisited the C923 this weekend. My wife and I had been out in the garage having a few drinks. She went to bed. I wasn't tired yet, so I already had the equipment up. So I was like, I'm half in the bag. I'll film some Patreon content. So I revisited that and compared it to a couple other things. So if you're on the Patreon, check that out. I just ate before doing this. I actually was in a hurry to get some food before doing 4 barrel-proof whiskeys, and I took a Totino's party pizza straight out of the oven and immediately ate it, so naturally the roof of my mouth is completely burnt. But I'm going to get a little control bourbon here. This is just Ancient Age 90, just to kind of prep the palate. Let's see, Peter White, sometimes I'm glad in Ontario we only get ECBP drops, few and far between. That way I get what I get and have no complaints. Yeah, you don't get the FOMO. Good evening, Bourbon Note in chat. Good evening, Jeff Castle. Good to see you in the chat. So Bourbon Jerk is going to be on the upcoming episode of Baker Drinks live this weekend, so that's awesome. Make sure you go check that out and go check out the Bourbon Jerk while you're at it. If we have any mods in the chat here, feel free to drop a link to the Bourbon Jerk. So anyway, yeah, so I did revisit some Elijah Craig Barrel Proof this weekend, but I figured the A batch is the one that I have the most of, so I've got A121, 122, 123, and 124. So I had the last 4 years worth of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof A batches. And I'm not going to blind these because I'm not looking to pick a like a winner, you know what I mean? Anytime, Tom. So I'm not looking to pick a winner. I just kind of want to compare and see what the kind of nuances are from batch to batch. It's been a while since I've done like a flight of Elijah Craig's, aside from this last weekend when I was buzzed up. In that video on Patreon, I actually compared C923 to B523, the most beloved batch versus the most hated batch. And then I brought in a store pick as well. Let me know in the comments, do you guys where you live, are the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof private barrels? They look just like the Barrel Proof. Are those common? Because in Minnesota, damn near every store has one of those, and it's absolutely awesome. The last time I picked one up, it was like $60, which is an incredible deal. 10-year age stated like 128 proof and some change. I've heard in different markets, those are not quite as common, so I'd be interested to hear what the distribution is for that. All right. Oops. I may have poured a little heavier than I meant to, but there we go. Steve Joes with a link to the Bourbon Jerk. Go check out that channel. It's a great channel. Oh, by the way, let's get... before I forget, background music always makes this a bit less awkward. So let's rock that out. And by the way, if you have, I'm assuming a lot of you probably have these. If you do have these bottles and you're able to, go ahead and pour some and sip along with me here, because I'd like to hear some opinions kind of as I go here. So again, not looking for a winner, just really looking to kind of, you know, again, see what the nuance is between them and sit here and have a conversation with you fine folks. Let's see, they're pretty much unicorns here. As our Old Forester Black Label 100 proof. Never see those either. I've only seen one of those. Sugar Kitty is in the house. And where is my Sugar Kitty drop? There it is. I still haven't gotten around to changing that. Not as cheap. All run about 80 to 90 for me. Roman Carter, good to see you in the chat. That's about what they run around here too, Roman. They're typically, like the single barrels are about $80, and then the regular A, B, and C drops, they're typically no less than $80. Sometimes 75 if you're lucky, but I did pick one up at Liquor Boy in St. Louis Park for $60, which was ridiculous. I wasn't even planning on getting one, but when you see it for that price, it's kind of hard to pass it up. And to be honest, I'd love to hear your opinion on this as well. A lot of times the single barrels, even if they're lower proof and lower age, I think they actually drink better than the ABC batches in a lot of cases. I know Brian over at Bourbon School shares that sentiment as well. See, Steve Joe's being in Southern California, we've got all ECBP drops. Conversely, I've never seen the Black Label of Old Forester 100. Yeah, so when I picked up my bottle of the Black Label Old Forester 100, I kept hearing that those were like just the best. They're even better than the barrel proof ones, which is wild at 100 proof. So I had to get one. I walked into a store, I saw it, I'd never seen it in Minnesota, and I paid like $70 or something, maybe even 80. And at that point, I had no idea what the price point on those was. I just assumed, like, okay, that's probably what they charge for them because they're rare. And I think they're closer to 50, so I think that liquor store, they got away with one. They got me on the FOMO. But at that, like I said, at that point, I had no idea what the cost was. Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast, what's happening? Brian and or Deb or both? Peter White, enjoy new bottles to send out in a while. Okay, let's get into it. Do a little quick nosing down the line. Ooh, definitely a difference between these first two. I mean, they're in the same family, obviously, but a little more rich and brown sugary on this one. A little more zebra cake and tannins on the 22. Elijah Craig products in general are just, they're such a good example of just right down the middle bourbon. You know what I mean? Like if you want to tell somebody, hey, this is what bourbon tastes like, just a regular Elijah Craig small batch at 90 proof. There's nothing bad about it. It's not too overwhelming. And it's just a general good bourbon profile. Sugar Kitty, two guys walk into a store in Minnesota. If ever there was a joke, just Minnesota alone, and that joke kills. Well, I'll leave it up to you to come up with something, Sugar Kitty. You know, the more I'm nosing these, the more they're starting to kind of blend together. And that's why I don't understand people having, and again, this is just me. I mean, everybody's palate is different. So, I mean, everybody's palate is maybe susceptible to certain tasting notes and maybe less susceptible to other ones. Well, I do get some nuance and difference between these. I just don't know that I get as much as a lot of people that I see that really have strong opinions on one batch over another. I mean, they are different a little bit, but I've certainly never had one that I would consider to be bad bourbon and not worth it. So, all right, enough of the nosing. Let's get into the tasting here.
That's what she said.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining me. A fantastic bourbon. Imagine that. I am going to go a little water between these, just to see if I can spot some differences. Hey, I'll tell you what. I mean, obviously, if you guys watch this channel, you know this is going to culminate in a blend. Maybe for the third sample, I'll include a blend of all four of these. Let me know. Is that fun? Do you guys like when I do the blends? I think I sent out a blend, or I'm sending out a blend to Ryan Frank. I haven't sent his out yet because he might just come over here and drink them with me. But I do have another sample pack going out tomorrow to Taylor from Hatfield Barbecue. Won a sample pack of the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye, which will be in tonight's drawing. The Elijah Craig single barrel, 10-year age stated that I picked up, and then a Rebel single barrel that I picked up from 1010 Washington. Both of them killer. The Elijah Craig is from Liquor Boy in St. Louis Park, in case you're wondering. That's the one I snagged for $60. Oh, I meant to let me do this real quick. Please hold. I wonder if I can get there from here. Copy. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to send something out real quick to see if I meant to send this earlier, if maybe any of the anybody in the Whiskey 6 text message thread wants to hop on. So please bear with me for just a second. I'm going to send that invite out. All right, sending this to the thread. Okay, sorry about that. I know that's riveting YouTube content, but I did want to extend the offer to them, and I was so far behind in getting this live stream started that I forgot to send the link out. I didn't warn them of that either, so they're just getting that information now. So I wouldn't be surprised if nobody hops on because it's kind of last minute. So let's get into the 23. Piper John says, yes, last blend sample I got from you was delicious. All right. What was the blend in that? I do remember sending a couple of blends out. Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast, go check out their channel, by the way. We can drop a link to that one as well. I only have a handful of ECBPs, but I really like the A121, and my distillery bottle is nice and nutty. I would love to get one of those distillery bottles, that and the Bernheim. Did they do a larceny there too? Piper John does not remember what was in the blend. Well, I don't blame you, Piper John. I've got it here somewhere, because if you want it on the Patreon drawing, then I will have that documented somewhere, I'm sure. So, anyway, the 23 is great too. I mean, I'm just not noticing a huge difference in these. It's almost like they all have the same thing going on. Like, picture the same song, but in one the bass is turned up, and one the vocals are turned up, and one the guitar solo is turned up. It's kind of like that. Yes, we sampled Larceny, Bernheim, and ECBP. Deb bottled the ECBP. That's awesome. I think if I were to go do that, I don't know. I'd have a hard time choosing which one. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, we did... They do at the Heaven Hill Distillery. You can choose and you can bottle your own bottle of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, Bernheim Barrel Proof, or Larceny Barrel Proof. So I would love to do that at some point. MK, I also have an ECBP 1223 from the distillery. That's awesome. Welcome, MK. Boy, I'd say the A124 has tasted the most different so far, which maybe tracks, because this is the bottle that everybody's kind of crapping on right now. I'm with you, Ben. I never detected any great difference between all of the ECBP batches I've tried. Could be my trash palate. Hey, welcome to the club, Steve. Speaking of trash palate, again, the Bourbon Jerk is going to be on with Baker Drinks this Saturday, so don't miss that. That'll be awesome. I'm sure they'll be giving away some killer prizes as well. I still have a C917 and an open C918 and A123. So the 17 and 18, I've never had those. I think my earliest one, I think, is a 21, is when I first started getting into the Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs. That's just when I kind of got to the point of drinking barrel proof whiskey. Good news, all ECBP are generally great, though. I couldn't agree with you more, MK. That's kind of my whole point in trying this. And again, I know these are all A batches, and I know some people have very strong opinions on, I like the C batch the best. But again, I don't know, is there any science behind that, or is there a reason that one batch, like, depending on what time of year it comes out, or is it just a coincidence that all the C batches seem to be everyone's favorite? Let's taste these backwards down the number line here, as they say. I have heard from friends that the A124 and the B524 are just trash. I've reviewed both of them. I wasn't into the B batch quite as much. Let's see, C919, sorry, I meant C918, is heads above either 17 or 19. Okay. Because that was back when they were all coming out at like 130 proof, like north of 130 proof, right? I believe. Because that's before I kind of got into the barrel proof whiskey game. And so I remember seeing those on the shelf a few times and just being like, what the hell? 130 proof, who does that? And now, of course, I wish I had purchased them. I think you said I could drop this. Yes, absolutely. Anybody who has a channel can always drop a link in the chat here. So yes, feel free anytime you're on here, Brian, to do so. If I forget to call it out, just go ahead and drop the link. I probably screwed that up. It looks like there's a link there. Let us know. Is that a hyperlink or is that does that work? It's hard to tell from my end because I don't think it shows up blue if it's a link. I don't think so anyway. Let me see. I'm so bad at this. Like, I don't know how to like post stuff in the chat. I think I just finally linked up my... It doesn't work. Okay, so I'd have to make you a mod, Brian. And I don't, in order to do that, I'd have to navigate away from this page. So can we have, you have to mod, drop a link, it's not everyone. Sugar Kitty, would you mind dropping a link to Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast? What's up, Major G? Nice to see you here. Brian, we'll get a link to the channel here soon. I'm sure somebody will get one in. Major G's got a wrench. Who else? Steve Joes has got a wrench. Somebody posted the link for Bourbon Jerk earlier. I really do have to go in and get more mods set up. It's just if I leave this here, I'm just worried that I'm going to screw my whole live stream up. And I'm already bad at this the way it is, as you guys can probably tell. Ooh, that 22 is coming across real brown sugary. That's nice. I dig it. All right, let's get into this. Yeah, I mean, there's, excuse me. Okay, there we go. All right, Sugar Kitty's got the link. Thank you for that, Sugar Kitty. Appreciate it. Get a little applause here for Sugar Kitty. All right. I don't know that I can pick a favorite from these. The one thing I will say, like trying to do this live, I try to not have too much dead space of me just sitting here quietly sipping bourbon, although that would probably be a much needed break from my yapping for you guys. I'm going to rapid fire these. Thanks, Sugar Kitty. I would say in the rapid fire, I probably like the 21 and 22 the best. Could be just blowing my palate out, rapid fire drinking these. But, I don't know, the 23 and 24 are still great. So I've been thinking about doing a science video. Because, you know, here at the Bourbon Note, we're all about science. But I want to do like a, Major G's making a blend. What are you making a blend of? Are you talking about me making a blend? Because I will be doing that next. So let me crowdsource this for a second. I'm thinking about doing a science video, because I do love to throw out the occasional science video, on like whiskey beliefs, kind of like the neck pour, that some people believe and some people don't. Or just like, I don't know, is there anything to it? So I was thinking about doing, like I saw a video, I remember when I first got into drinking whiskey, I went on and watched, there's a video with, what's his name? Robert Patterson? Michael Patterson? I can't remember. Am I thinking of the actor? Anyway, it's the guy from the Dalmore. He's got like the mustache. There's a video on YouTube of him like talking about how to taste whiskey. And when I first got into whiskey, I just thought it was the greatest video because this guy's like super passionate. He's a Scotsman, so he's got the cool accent. And he's talking about drinking a Rebel Rye tonight. I've never had Rebel Rye before. I got to try that. But he's talking about like different ways, like how to properly taste whiskey. And one of the things he said, you know, you never hold onto your whiskey glass with your hand because your hand can warm up the whiskey and change the profile of it. And I believe that, just like I used to believe the neck pour and all these other things. Now, if you're using a Glencairn, most people probably don't hold them like this. And even using a rocks glass, you're probably not like holding it like that for an extended period of time. But I was thinking about doing like a video where I do a couple of these things, like just adding a couple of Richard Patterson, the nose. Okay, thank you. You can only be so cool drinking a Dalmore. You're going to have to do some research, something which this channel is not known for. Steve Joes, that's, yeah, I would say you're absolutely right about that. But so I was thinking about doing that. I was going to do an experiment where we've kind of done this before with like a decanter, but like pouring a pour of whiskey and then letting it sit out for like 2 hours and then you know, pouring one straight from the bottle just to see how sitting out in open air, does that affect your bourbon? Because that's another thing that people say, like, I don't know if that's true or not, or if we just believe it. Hatfield Barbecue. Ben, I'm at the Taco Bell drive-thru currently. Now, Hatfield, is that just a random Taco Bell or are you in Buffalo right now? By the way, Taylor, congratulations. I do have your samples hopefully going out tomorrow. So Taylor won the last sample pack here for the Patreon only giveaway. Or change the temp, cold, room temp, and warm. Let's see. Ed, what does that say? Eddington or Edrington? I can't read it. Is Dalmore and also Macallan Richard Patterson is appropriately named. He's Scotland's equivalent of a lumpy pillow. Good Lord. Sugar Kitty with the fighting words. Anyway, so getting back to my science video. I'm going to start the video out, maybe do one where like I open up, I've had a glass sitting open for like 2 hours, and then I pour one fresh from the barrel, taste the two of them next to each other. While I'm doing that, I'm going to be holding a tight grip on a glass of whiskey. I don't know that I buy that one, that just doing this, I think you'd have to do that for an awfully long time to get that to heat your whiskey up. And then, you know, maybe do another neck pour video just to prove to Brian from Buffalo Bourbon Enthusiast that he's living a lie. Let's see, when I make a video, sometimes I save the remaining pours and drink them a few hours later. They change drastically and usually not for the better. Okay, but that's weird, Brian, because then if you do the neck pour and a little bit of air gets into the bottle, it always unanimously changes it for the good. So what are we doing here? So we gotta get the science going. Let's see. Dickie Patterson puts hideous amounts of caramel coloring in his bottles. Well, that's nasty. I don't know why Scotland allows that, by the way. That's so weird to me. You'd think it's like, this is Scotch. Come on, you don't have to add coloring or anything like that. We do things au naturel here in America, apparently. I got to drink these down just a tad bit more. So anyway, let me know. Do you guys have any suggestions of what other experiments I can do in this video? So I was thinking of doing the exposed to air, the holding your hand on it. Does it raise the temperature? Does it make a difference? I've always wondered about adding a couple drops of water to bourbon. Now I understand, because they say when you add the couple drops of water, it's not about proofing it down. It's about the water interacting with the oils in the bourbon and causing a change in the flavor profile, which makes sense on a barrel-proof bourbon that has not been already exposed to water. But on a bourbon that's been proofed down, it's already been exposed to tons of water. So what I would like to do is maybe put a couple of drops of water in, but then replace it with a couple of drops of that same bourbon so it's not proofing it down, and see what it does. Do you guys think that that's a reasonable experiment to do? I don't know. What's your experience with putting water in your whiskey, aside from the fact that it does proof it down at least a little bit? All right, folks, we've got the blend going here. Let me get, no, please hold. Okay. I understand that, but the glass being an open container, it can evaporate into the air and not contained in the bottle. Well, that's how I feel about the neck pour, though. But I get what you're saying, Brian, so I'd like to do that experiment. I know that the Whiskey Tribe did an experiment like that a long time ago, where I think they actually did, they had like 25 or 24, because I think they did 1 hour for the day, actually, for each hour of the day, but they had 24 glasses in front of them. One was 24 years old, one was 23, and so on and so forth. And they kind of did them as a flight. I got to switch to sitting down here. Currently have a bulging disc in my back. I got to switch positions every once in a while. Now I'm just hiding behind my flight of Elijah Craig here. Okay. Let's see. I avoid water in bourbon or rye, but will experiment with single malts now and then. Okay, interesting. Oh, Sugar Kitty says you might also use tap water versus distilled water. Water and its effects are different bottles. Okay, interesting. I do have some distilled water on hand. You know what? If I had a way that, if I had like a little dropper or something, I would actually just do that right now with this blend. I probably should have thought ahead and actually done that. But as I think it was Piper John pointed out, thinking ahead and research ahead of time is not what this channel is known for, and it never will be. Mr. Great Shot in the house. What's happening, Mark? Water is for wussies. I like it. I don't particularly, I've never really experimented with it, to be honest. I've never really seen the point. Try using a small spoon if you don't have a dry. That's a good idea. Brian is in the house. What's happening, Brian? Brian, I don't know if you saw in the group chat, I did post a link. If you want to hop on the stream here, you're certainly welcome to. I know you have a setup where you may not always have your equipment set up. Bourbon Jerk says, I put a drop or two of water in an 80 proof, oh, where do you go? Hang on. In an 80 proof scotch, but never in 130 proof bourbon. Everybody knows that 80 proof scotch needs water for sure. But yeah, I've always wondered that, because when it's already been proofed down, like I said, I get it. I get the idea of the oils interacting in a barrel proof that hasn't been exposed to water yet. But when it's already been exposed to the amount of water it takes to proof it down, I just wonder why 2 more drops is going to cause a chemical reaction. And that's really what they say is happening. So I don't know. Bourbon Jerk says, my house is pretty cold and ashy. Like to warm up the glass with hands. I think it enhances the nose and palate. No, I'm not being contrarian. Interesting. I totally get that. Oh no, sorry, that was Brian that said that. I said the Bourbon Jerk. Sorry, I was looking at the other logo from the previous chat. So, I've had bourbon served to me in a cold glass, like a refrigerated glass, and I don't particularly care for that. Sugar Kitty with the link to Bourbon School. That's awesome. There was actually a time I went to, I think it was Olive Garden actually. Went there for a birthday party, and I always check out the bar before I sit down so I know what to order, if they've got whiskey or not. All they had was Woodford. Fine. So I ordered a Woodford Reserve Neat, and this woman looked at me like she had no idea what I was talking about. And she's like, so do you, like, with something? What do you want it mixed with? I was like, no, just neat, nothing. It's like, so you just want it on ice? I was like, nope, just neat. Just put whiskey in a glass and hand it to me. That's all I need. And then so she brought it in a shot glass, like one of those tall, like tequila shooter glasses, and it was a chilled glass. And I don't like my whiskey cold. I put stainless cubes in mine if I want it chilled. Very seldom ice. Let's see. Nothing to do with proofing it down when it comes to single malts. Right. I would imagine that's not the. If you're Peter White, if you're mentioning that that's like not the purpose with a single malt, I would get that. Let's see, Peter White, bourbon jerk, it just unlocks some of the flavor sometimes. Sugar Kitty, science, various flavor chemicals need a minimum level to be able to taste. Watering it down can lower some barely detectable flavors below that threshold. Can be interesting. All right, Sugar Kitty with the knowledge. Sugar Kitty's always dropping the knowledge. All right, let's get into the blend here. So this is a blend of the 21, 22, 23, and 24, all A batches of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. By the way, Brian from Bourbon School is an A124 hater. Brian, defend your position. Boy, that blend is interesting. Huh. Do you know what's weird? As I was saying, like all of these actually kind of taste very, very similar to each other. The blend tastes drastically different for whatever reason. I don't know. Major G, because science, that's what I'm saying. Deb will take my man card if I add a drop of water. What if it's in the name of science, Brian? Sean said big red gum and it just ruined it for me. I can see that a tad bit. I get a little bit of that kind of cinnamon candy sort of spice, a little bit. I don't think I got that quite as much as you did, but I love a bourbon that has a big red gum sort of flavor to it. Sugar Kitty, I'm not a flavor chemist, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Either that or it used to be related to my job. That's borderline disturbing. None of the ECBP 24s dropped in Ontario. Oh well. Peter White, do you guys get any of the private barrels? Independent Joe, what's happening? Mods, can we get some Independent Joe link going on here? Go check out Independent Joe's channel. It's good to see you, Joe, in the chat. It really is interesting to me how different this blend is. But again, maybe my palate's just blown out now after tasting 4 of these things.
That's what she said.
Still pretty good though. Now I got to try this A124 again, just to see about the the big red gum. Just a tiny bit. I imagine I'll get it on the nose more than the palate.
That's what she said.
But we'll see. She's a dentist. She will ask me, is it safe the next time I'm in her chair? Yeah, I can see the big red gum on this. Nope, not ECBP. Ontario is a Buffalo Trace product haven. Well, then you're kind of the opposite of here because you can't find anything Buffalo Trace around here for anything. Y'all too young for the Marathon Man reference. I think I might be. Although usually for movie references, I'm wise beyond my years. Truth, my company made software used by flavor chemists. They were part of our market, but we sold that product. Weird. Yeah, I'm getting a light big red gum on that, but not too much though. I don't find it off-putting. I actually like that note. By the way, folks, we are going to be doing the Patreon-only drawing. And so in tonight's drawing, if you guys are interested, you can either hop over to the Patreon or if you throw in a $5 super chat for 1 entry into the drawing. Otherwise, you can join the Patreon at $3. That'll get you 1 entry into every drawing I do as long as you're signed up. 2 to 3 a month. $5 gets you 2 entries, and then so on and so forth. So if you're interested in doing that, I would love it if you would check out the Patreon. I'm doing 2 to 3 sample drawings a month. Again, whatever tier you're at, you'll get X amount of entries into literally every drawing I do as long as you're signed up. And if you want to just sign up for a month, go ahead and do that. You don't have to feel bad about signing up and then canceling. One thing that's cool about Patreon that I noticed, because I feel very awkward about this when I'm signed up to something and then I have to cancel, they do have a little exit interview, and you can just put in there, like, one of the things is, you know, I wanted to donate X amount of dollars. I fulfilled that, and so now my subscription's over. So that, in that regard, Patreon's really cool. In the other regard, it's really cool because they take far less than YouTube does. So the super chats are well appreciated, but our channel overlords definitely take their cut. And if you do it from an Apple device, Apple takes a cut too. Sugar Kitty, thank you for dropping the link. So if anybody signs up tonight, you'll get entered into tonight's drawing. And so what we are drawing for tonight, these are just about 2-ounce samples. They're actual airplane like bottles that you get at the liquor store on the airplane. When you fill those all the way up to the top, it's closer to like 1.9 ounces. So it's basically 2 ounces. So you're going to get the Heaven Hill grain to glass. I'm sending a sample of this for the last Patreon drawing, but we're going to include it in this one as well. Heaven Hill grain to glass. This is a 7-year banger, 123.2 proof. I'm going to include an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C923 because I know that that's kind of the most coveted of all the recent Elijah Craig Barrel Proofs, and I know a lot of people weren't able to get a hold of that one, so I'll include a sample of that, and then I will include a sample which is going to be a blend of all 4 of these, all 4 A batches from 21, 22, 23, and 24. So if you want to get in on that, do that in about 10 minutes here. Anyone who's on Patreon is automatically in the drawings. Again, I do 2 to 3 a month. Ryan Frank is in the house. Hey, Ryan, by the way, you got to text me because you won samples a couple weeks ago, and I had mentioned, I don't know if you want me to send them to you or if you want to just come over and try them. So yeah, let me know and we'll plan a time. Just so you know, I don't just invite everybody from the chat over to my house, but I have known Ryan for 20 years, so, you know. He actually did the wiring for the lights down here, so there you go. If you like the lights in here, thank Ryan Frank and the fellas over at Adland Electric. Yeah, this blend is interesting. It's actually pretty good. You know what this tastes like? Oh yeah, it was your birthday when you won. That's awesome. This really does kind of, I said at the beginning of this, that Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, Elijah Craig products in general are just a really like down the middle, like the flavor profile is bourbon. It's like if you want to tell somebody what bourbon tastes like, Elijah Craig products are a great example. I don't feel like they venture out too far into being unique necessarily, but that's fine. They're all just damn good. And this blend is a really good example of like just a fantastic down the middle, rich, good tasting bourbon. Troy from Baker Drinks, let's get a link. Just got home from work. Cheers. Please start over from the beginning. Okay, Troy, since I made you start over from the beginning on our last live stream that we did together on the Trash Palette Challenge, and you had to tell everybody the rules twice because your boy here forgot to hit the go live button, which apparently is an integral part in getting this whole live stream thing to work. So I did not do that again this time. Anyway, Troy, I'm drinking A121, A122, A123, and A124. We're on the blend now. Baba Yaga, what's happening? Good to see you in the chat. All right, Troy from Banger Drinks. Well, there were 9 runs scored at the beginning. Brian. All right. Let me make sure that I have this set up here. All right, I do. There we go. We got a link to Baker Drinks. Has anybody, by the way, so this is my video that's coming out tomorrow. It's going to be a review of the Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye. Has anybody had this? I found this one to be interesting. I had not seen any reviews of it when I reviewed it, and I found I was about 50-50 with people. Like some of the notes that I don't normally get on other stuff that I found in here, other people seem to find as well. So Felt good about that. Bourbon School, 2 entries for Sugar Kitty. Bourbon School donating to Sugar Kitty. Thank you, Brian. That is awesome of you. Let me head over to the wheel here and add Sugar Kitty. Grab my trusty, let's see, Sugar Kitty. All right. Oops, I spelt that wrong. I spelt sugar wrong. Good Lord. Okay, there we go. Awesome, thank you, Brian. Thomas Anderson is here. What's happening? Cheers from mid-Michigan. Yeah, Brian, I actually watched your short on the Grain to Glass rye today. That is a solid lineup. Love the ECVPs. Have there been any sightings of C924? In Minnesota, they tend to get here a little bit late. So they're definitely not here at the beginning of September. Heaven Hill Grain to Glass is $100 in our area. Not sure about these yet. Steve, I picked mine up for $100 at Sam's Club. I think from what I gathered, I think they tend to run about the 120 to 140. I got mine at Sam's Club for $100. I didn't know anything about it really. I just knew that these grain glasses were coming out and I was interested in them. So I kind of impulse bought it. They only had one sitting on the shelf and I was like, well, who knows if I'll get a chance to buy it again. It's at Sam's Club, so you know it's going to be, you know, below what standard stores are offering it for. So I just decided to go ahead and pick it up. I don't regret it. It was an interesting one for me though. I will say that. And so the review of that comes out tomorrow. Some of you that are Patreon supporters may have already watched that today. It's up on Patreon, where you get the videos a day early. Sounds like you said Booger Kitty. All right, somebody make the meme. Who's doing it? Who's making the Booger Kitty meme? I love it. Sipping on a Buffalo Trace store pick to start off the evening. I've never had a Buffalo Trace store pick. Like, I've never owned one, and I've never sampled one. I know it's become kind of in vogue to trash anything Buffalo Trace at this point. I like the basic Buffalo Trace. Eagle Rare, too. I dig those. I wish those were more readily available here, but they're not. But for the $25 for a bottle of Buffalo Trace, I think at $25, it's one of the better bottles out there. I don't know that it's Old Forester 100 good, but, you know, it's definitely good. All right, so we're going to do the drawing in about 5 minutes here. So if you want to enter, $5 super chat for one entry. If you want to donate an entry for somebody else.
That's what she said.
You could do that, Brian. Maybe you started a trend there. Other than that, if you want to sign up on Patreon, you're entered into every single drawing I do for however many months, whatever months you're signed up for. It's going to be 2 to 3 drawings a month. So Patreon is definitely the better deal, and they take far less of a cut than YouTube does. So if you want to do that real quick, I'm going to do the drawing at about 6:55, so 6 minutes from now. Brian from Bourbon School says, first week of school and first dry week in a long time, starting to salivate watching you sample all of these pours. Is it the whiskey you're salivating over, Brian? Come on, be honest. Booger Kitty, silence. Troy, you know how to use AI. Can you come up with something that's like a cat that looks like a booger? You can probably have that done and texted me by the end of this stream, right? In the next 10 minutes, Troy, can you make that happen? A Booger Kitty AI picture? Troy knows all about making AI stuff. Now you know my shame, Ben. I would say that that's a point of pride for you, Brian. I mean, hey, literally. The weekend can't come fast enough. So are you doing a dry week just to kind of get into the swing of things, Brian? I did a mostly dry month last February. It was the stupidest thing I've ever done. And it wasn't even a completely dry month, but God. And you know what the thing is? I don't even care about like getting drunk at all during that month. I got to the point, it's like, Why am I depriving myself of just enjoying a pour of whiskey? Like, I gain nothing from it at all. Like, I thought at the end of it, like, I'd feel better and healthier and maybe lose a couple of pounds. Nothing. There was no benefit to it whatsoever. All school year, at least trying. Whiskey 6 nights won't count. Brian, I'll do a dry week here and there. Not very often. But typically, if I drink during the week, though, it's like having a 2-ounce pour. There's nothing that I'm less interested in than getting drunk on a work night or getting really even buzzed on a work night. That just does not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form at my age. Yeah, a lot of times it's just the 1 2-ounce pour. But, Brian, in the last Whiskey 6, I was drinking non-alcoholic beer. I've been keeping non-alcoholic beer around just because, if I'm sitting out on the porch or I'm grilling or something like that, I like to have a beer. I know non-alcoholic beer is not as good as the real thing, but it does kind of scratch the itch. Still kind of feels like you're having a beer. When my daughter comes over, or my granddaughter comes over on Tuesdays, I like to sit on the rocking porch on the front porch and rock her, and I'll have a cool little non-alcoholic grandpa's on duty pour. So let's see, what is that? When you're retired, it's always the weekend. Thomas Anderson. That sounds wonderful. Brian, are you 6 years to go to retirement? Is that what it said? 6 years to go. That's awesome. What are you going to do? You'll be 56 years old. What are you going to do with your time? All right, let's get the wheel set up here. So I have added Sugar Kitty. If anybody wants to get an entry into the wheel, now is the time to do it. By the way, if anybody did sign up for the Patreon, I would have to check. I'm not assuming anybody did, but unless you mentioned it in the chat, I don't want to miss it just in case. So, okay, so we're good on that. Early access. All right. Let's get the wheel going. Again, this is a drawing for a sample pack of the, let's see, yep, more years. I'll send Marie Ann off to work 3 years. Then when she retires, travel as much as possible. That sounds awesome. So, sample pack tonight includes Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye, 7-year, 123.2 proof. The Elijah Craig C923, the most coveted and dry humped of all Elijah Craig C9 or barrel proof bottles over the last couple years. And then the 4-way blend of all of the A batches from 2021 to 2024, which is what I'm sipping on right now. And it's good. 10 out of 10, would recommend if you like Elijah Craig barrel proof. All right, let's get the wheel going here. Let's see, share screen. Okay. All right, you guys can all see that, I'm assuming. So let's get into the drawing for the sample pack. Thank you again, Brian, for donating for Sugar Kitty, and thank you to all the Patreon supporters that are already in here. Let's shuffle this a few times just to make sure we're all mixed up, and let's do it. David Williams. All right, congratulations, David Williams. David is our most old school Patreon supporter, probably the most old school supporter of this channel. He was like, one of the first people to actually start leaving comments and chatting back and forth with us, and he has just been such a huge supporter of this channel. So David, I'm glad that you won the sample pack tonight, so I will get those out to you ASAP possible. All right, let's see what we got for chat here. Got a few minutes left, and then I'm going to get out of here. Oh, hold on a second. There we go. Let me get caught up in the chat. All right. I have twice as long to work and over 10 years older, OMG. Well, Sugar Kitty, hopefully you win the lottery. Or if nothing else, hopefully you're involved in the next drawing and you win some samples from me, if that helps. All right, folks, we're going to get this wrapped up here. So Taylor, if you're still in the chat here, I'm going to fill the sample bottles tonight. I will also fill the sample bottles for David Williams, Old School Patreon, and Bourbon Note supporter. Thank you guys very, very much for joining me tonight. I know it's been a while since I've done the live stream. I mentioned at the beginning, had a project at work that was requiring a lot of overtime, and so that was kind of cutting into being able to get home in time to do this, but that project is now over. Let's see, sorry I couldn't join. I am just about comatose on the couch. That first dry week is just doing Brian in. But yeah, so now I'll get back to being on a regular schedule. There is 1 week in September that I have a scheduling conflict that I won't be live streaming. That will be in late September. Should be back here next week with more giveaways and more stuff. And then we have, I think, Brian, are we official on the date for the Whiskey 6 in September? I know we're still working out who our guest is going to be, but the samples won't pay my bills, but maybe will make me so drunk I just forget. Well, there you go. That's the general idea, right? Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so it is official. So the Whiskey 6 in September will be August 18th. Please go subscribe to @thewhiskey6 on YouTube. It's just @thewhiskey6. Well, here we go. Let's do, before I get out of here, we can throw this on the screen. There we go. @thewhiskey6. For those of you that don't know, that's it's kind of a collaboration channel we do. It's me, it's Bourbon School, it's Bad Axe Bourbon, it's Bourbon Drop, and Whiskey Wars / Mash and Metal. And then we have a guest on, and we do it once a month. Talk a bunch about whiskey, and then we kind of come up with some other topics just to kind of nerd out on. So it's a ton of fun. It really is a lot of fun. So definitely check out the Whiskey 6. That's going to be a lot of fun. Again, we don't have our guest announced yet. But we've had some awesome guests so far. I'll get a hold of you. Somebody keeps deleting my chat. What? Independent Joe, how is somebody deleting your chat? I missed most of the stream. What was the best ECBP? To be honest, Taylor, I don't really know. I think I said the 21 and 22 were a little bit better, but they're very close. Independent Joe, send me an email, thebourbonnote@gmail.com. Somebody kept deleting your chat. I don't even know how that works. Joe, that was happening to me on your live a few months back. Weird. Well, I know, can mods delete chat? None of the mods that are in here would have deleted a chat. So either, Joe, put it in the chat real quick right now, or just shoot me an email at, like I said, thebourbonnote@gmail.com. I'm sorry that was happening. I don't know. Joe, not deleted if you're having a problem. It's a connectivity issue. I'll explain what happened. Okay, thank you, Joe. Sorry that was happening. I don't know why that would be, but I guess I don't understand all the ins and outs.
That's what she said.
But yeah, Joe, send me an email. That'd be awesome. We can delete, but there is a record of it. We would know. Okay, interesting. Well, who the hell knows? But anyway, folks, it is 7 o'clock. It's time for me to get out of here, get on with my night. I think that, is it Hello Again Whiskey Friends? Usually starts up after me. So head over there and check those folks out and see if, I'm pretty sure they're probably live streaming. They usually do Wednesdays at 7 o'clock Central, if I'm not mistaken. I usually don't catch that because usually after I'm done with this, I get on with my night and go do the things that I've been avoiding doing while sitting down here drinking whiskey with you fine folks. So anyway, guys, thank you very, very much. Check out the video tomorrow, Heaven Hill Grain to Glass Rye. Check out the Patreon if you're so inclined. There's bonus content and you get entered into all these drawings for whiskey. Yeah, we will see you next week on the next live stream. Cheers, everybody.